Himber envelope, sometimes called a double envelope. You may be familiar with the Himber wallet. Now that's a kind of as a Z-fold wallet. Some of them are made very well so you don't see it. The cheap ones are really bad. But by opening it from two different directions, you can have two different loads. You can have something appear, disappear, transpose. It's a very cool thing. This is Himber-esque. It's a double pocket envelope. Very easy to make. I have a package of 10 envelopes, and I'm going to make 5 Himber envelopes. I'll show you how to make it and talk about some of the handling. But first, let me just show you what it is. It is an envelope with a double pocket. Now, you can't open the two pockets, so it's not as flexible as, say, a Himber wallet. But before you do your trick, you take your card of choice, whatever you're going to force, and put a duplicate. Very carefully seal this backside, line them up so they hide each other, and seal it. So now you bring out what looks like a regular envelope, because these would be glued together. You can cleanly show empty, lick it, seal it, have an audience member sit on it. Force your card. Always have duplicates. Force the card by whatever means you want. Vanish the card in your selected favorite way. And with some polyrazzmatazz, you then have them stand up and they can feel there's something in the envelope. They can see there's something card-esque in the envelope. You open it, dump out their card. It's really pretty fun. There are limitations. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's show you how it's made. It is basically 2 envelopes, and you very carefully take one of them with a straight edge, and you cut here, here, and here. You come in a little ways off the edge, because it's got to be short enough to go in, but long enough not to show gaps. You don't want to see gaps, but you don't want to see wrinkles. So you have to cut a little off. It's just the envelope front and flap. You're cutting this back portion off. So let's look at how it's made now, and then we'll come back and talk about some of the ideas of handling. You take one of the envelopes and you trim off, as I said, the 2 sides and the bottom. I don't have an exact measurement, but it's about 2 millimeters. So what is that, like a 1/16 of an inch maybe? You just trim a little bit off. You'll play with it and see what works best for you. The size of the envelope, of course, is going to make a difference on how much you cut. Once you cut them, like I said, you want that extra piece to slip in rather easily, but without showing any big gaps from being too short. Or if it's too long, it'll wrinkle. So you just have to get the right measurement. Cut a couple, you'll figure it out. I do about 2 millimeters. I think that's about a 1/16 of an inch, but I don't measure it. As you can see, I'm just laying the straight edge down, using my X-Acto knife, and just cutting it. I need to change the blade. This is getting a little iffy on cuts. Having to do one of the cuts twice, but yeah, I need to get some new blades. But once it's done, you see all you did was cut that back part off, and now you have the front of the envelope and the flap. You want it to go in, like I said, goes in easily. If it's too short, you see gaps. If it's too long, you'll see wrinkles. So you'll know when it's right. The handling on this, when you seal this back portion, you put in your card or whatever. You could use billets, but I like using it for cards. You got multiples. You can force whatever card you want to force. When you put it in here, you want to make sure when you seal this back that you line them up as cleanly as you can. Otherwise, you'll end up like with some big, gap in here, and that would show. So you got to make sure and seal this as straight as you can, so when it folds over, it looks like only one flap. Now, because there's a card in here, certainly you cannot hand this to the spectator. So I have them stand up, and I just put it in the seat, and then they sit down. They would feel the card, and you haven't even had them select a card yet, so you don't want them to feel it. You have them when they get up after the card's been selected and vanished. They can feel something that feels like a card. They hold it up to the light. They see something card-shaped. So, we already know it's gone into the envelope, because if you make a card vanish, what are you going to do? You're going to make it come back. They're sitting on an envelope. Where do you think it's going to go? It's in the envelope. We already know this. But you make it fun, and it's okay. But you cannot have them open it, because most people are going to open an envelope this way, either tear across the top or go down to glue. Well, you've got two flaps. You got this weird piece. They can't open it. Also, you can't open it this way because that flap's in the way. So what you have to do is rip the end off. So you kind of tap it, so the card's down here, rip the end off, then you can pour the card out nicely into your hand. You want to make sure, you don't go, look, my hands are empty, but you show, you kind of just, okay, so, I'm going to open this and then pour it out. There are some limitations because they're sitting on it from the beginning of the trick. It's not going to be a signed card. I don't think that's a problem, because this is already powerful enough. It doesn't need to be signed. Because to do it signed, you've got to palm it off, slip it in somewhere. But to have them sitting on the envelope from the beginning, it can't be signed. Not with this anyway. Because if you can take a palm card and put it into the envelope, you don't need this part. So the whole point of this is to have it done in advance. And I think it's a very cool trick. It's a neat envelope. Using it for the card, force and vanish is a very simple idea. There's a lot of other things you could do with the Himber envelope. So it is up to your imagination what you do with it. Wait for my next video, and we're going to talk about one of the best card forces ever. And it's called Fiedler's Flyer. And I will show you how to make one. It's really pretty cool. Don't want to give it away too early, though. So check out my next video, Fiedler's Flyer. For more detailed instructions and pictures, please visit the blog at FreeMagicFun.com. Keep practicing.